Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Alright, so today I'm going to be painting coffee plumeria, and I'm sipping on some berry tea. And if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel, and that you also check out my Patreon page for additional painting perks, such as this one. So this painting that I did today is inspired by a photo that was submitted by one of my Patreon members by the name of Debbie Strotz. I don't know how she did this picture, but I thought it was super cool. So I have a benefit for my Patreon members whereby every now and again I'll put out a call for photos. They'll submit them and I turn some of them into YouTube tutorials. And as a thank you, I will send the original painting off to whoever submitted the photo. So it looked like she had a fun morning of getting her coffee to go. So hopefully this will continue to bring a smile to her face. So if you're interested in learning how you could submit your photos to me, or more about the Patreon membership program, because there's a bunch of additional benefits that you can use that will help to increase your artistic and your painting skills, I have all of that information down below in the video description. So let's get painting and let's get sipping. Alright, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along, you can certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'm going to be using. I'm using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, Mars black, fire red, ultramarine blue, deep yellow, and burnt umber, which I like to call brown. And of course you can switch those colors up if you'd like to. For my tools today, I have a white piece of chalk that I'm going to be using for some drawing. And then I have 3 brushes from my personal brush line, which is Michelle the Painter brushes. I have a 1-inch wide flat natural bristle brush. Then I have a number 8 round synthetic brush and a number 3 round synthetic brush. And I may refer to these as small, medium, and large as we go through the painting process, or I will just call them out by their given name. And of course you can switch those up as well. If you're painting along with me, you're probably going to want to have some kind of cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as some kind of towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I do provide you with a few additional resources that can help you throughout your painting process. One of them is a link to my shop where you could purchase the same exact paint kit that I'm using, from the same size and type of the canvas to the same type of paints and brushes and all the good stuff in between. You can also purchase from my shop things individually, like the brushes from my brush line. So that's there. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also the written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. Alright, so what we're going to do for the first step is we're going to be painting the background onto the canvas. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush. The colors I'm going to use are black and white, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to be doing most of it just with black, and then as I get down to the bottom I'll use a little bit of white so it goes a little bit lighter than black at the bottom. So I'm going to start with just black paint. I'm going to predominantly use probably just a left to right kind of crisscross type of brush stroke to apply the paint. And when I get down to the bottom and I am blending it in with the white, I may use a little bit more of a diagonal type of a brush stroke to get them to blend in together. But right now just gonna go back and forth, left to right, to get the paint on here. And I'm most likely just gonna do 1 layer of paint for my background, but if you find that you have a little bit of streaking, or once it dries that you've got some spots that you might have missed, you may want to do a second coat, because we're not going to be doing anything else to the background after this step. So you'll want to have the background as finished as you want it before we go on to the next step. So again, if you feel like you're going to want to do a second coat, by all means, feel free to do so. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a second coat or not. I'll wait to see how it looks when it's dry. So once I get down here, I'm about 2 inches away from the bottom of my canvas. I'm going to pick up black plus just a tiny bit of white paint on my brush. And this is going to provide me with just a tiny bit of a gradient going down towards the bottom of the canvas. I don't need it to do much. I am using a photo reference as inspiration today, and I'm seeing that there's a little bit of lightness down at the bottom of the photo, which is going to help also to get that cup to pop out a little bit better. So you could do it or not. If you want to go all black, so be it. No big deal. You can even pull a little bit of it up a touch if you want, and then you just go back and forth, left to right. That'll give you a nice even gradient. And then before I call it on this step, my paint is still wet, so if I go back up to the top and use light pressure and just go back and forth left to right like this with a full long brush stroke, that will level out any spots that might be thicker, and it will also catch any spots that I may have missed. And then again, if you want to do a second coat, you can certainly do a second coat, but we are going to be using our drawing utensil for the next step, so you can just get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be drawing an outline for our flower and our cup. I'm going to be using my white piece of chalk. You can certainly use any drawing utensil that's comfortable to you. I do recommend that your canvas is dry before you start this step as well. I'm going to be guiding you through a series of markers. We'll connect those markers, and by the time we're done, we'll cross our fingers that we have a nice, simple, basic outline for a flower and a cup that we'll be able to use during the painting in process. So I'm going to guide you to find yourself the center of your canvas, top to bottom, left to right, wherever that falls for you. For me, that falls somewhere in this vicinity. We're going to draw the cup first and the flower second. So for the cup, my cup is a little off center, slightly to the left. So I'm going to find myself at the top of the cup by going down about 1 inch and over to the left about 1/2 inch. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up to the height of my halfway point, and I'm going to go about halfway between that and the bottom of my canvas. So my canvas is 20 inches tall, so I'm in essence going down from the halfway point about 5 inches from the halfway point, but in this line of the middle of my cup right here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to find myself about halfway between these two, and I'm going to go to the right and to the left. So this is going to be the top of my cup. Top of my cup is about 9 inches wide. So if I find myself the middle of here, I'm going to go to the right about 4.5 inches and to the left about 4.5 inches. Give myself 2 marks. So these 4 marks are going to represent an oval. So I'm going to just take those and connect them in an oval shape. So it doesn't have to be perfect. This is just going to get us started in the painting process. So that looks good in through there. A little boo-boo there, no big deal. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another oval within this that's a little bit smaller. So it's going to be smaller at the top than it is at the bottom. So at the top I'm going to just go maybe 1/4 inch mark, and at the bottom maybe about 1/2 inch mark, and maybe on these edges 1/2 to 3/4 inch, somewhere in here and in here. And then I'm going to make myself another oval. So this oval is going to represent the little part of the cup that kind of pops up. So something like this. And then I'm going to draw a really slender oval right in the middle of this bottom, right here. This is where the straw is going to go. So something like that. This cup has some really unique effects from the light. It's a black glossy cup, so I'm actually gonna, I don't typically do this, but I'm gonna draw the sections of the colors that we're gonna be happening. So you can kind of split this section in 3 and just draw these horizontal / diagonal lines. It looks a little diagonal in the photo that I'm emulating, but yours can certainly be straight across. And then from the top row, go up just a little bit into this exterior area and make 2 more horizontal lines. So this is just sectioning off some coloring areas for us. And then what I'm going to do from the edges of these ovals, I'm going to draw 2 vertical lines. So I'm going to take this and draw a vertical line. It's probably about 2 inches maybe, and then same thing on the left hand side, something like that. Then I'm going to come back to this center area here, and I'm going to come down from that almost 2 inches, so maybe like 1 3/4 inches, something like that. And then I'm going to go back to the outside of this area in through here and give myself a little mark right about where this horizontal or this vertical line is coming, maybe even a touch above it. I'm going to take from here and here, and I'm going to connect the bottom of these lines to here. So this is going to be another oval type of shape. So from here I'm going to come out just a little bit, bring it down, meet this mark, and you can do the same thing over here, bring it down, and then just meet this center mark. And then what I'm going to do is on these sides, I'm going to come straight, well, down just a little bit angled to the left and the right, but I'll give you some markers. So if you come back to the center of your cup and go straight down to the bottom of your canvas, the width of the bottom here for me is going to be about 8.5 inches. So I had 9 here. This is going to be a touch more narrow than that. So if I find myself the center here, I'm going to go to the right 4 1/4 and to the left 4 1/4. So that brings me about here and here. So if you're working on a different size canvas, that's a little bit more than half of the width of my canvas. So my canvas is 16 and this is 8.5. Half would be 8. So just if you want to proportion it different to your size canvas. And then what I can do is from the right edge of this cup here, I can just make a diagonal line, slightly diagonal, to meet that marker in through there, and then do the same thing over on this left hand side, like that, to meet that. And you can see I wobbled a little bit. It's all gonna be okay, something like that. So once I have that, I just need 2 more kind of curved lines, which are gonna represent the color of the cup, and then the little cardboard holder to keep the person's hand cool. So you can kind of split this section almost in 3. Looks like there was a little bit less of an area down at the bottom, so just wherever you want to make a couple of marks in through here, and then you can give yourself a couple of curved lines to kind of mimic the curve that's on that oval, so something like this. And then we've got another one somewhere in through here, so something like that. And then I'm going to put the flower on. So this, I believe, is a Plumeria flower, and I think this particular one has 5 petals. I'm going to have the center of my flower somewhere right about here, so just a little bit above my center of my canvas, maybe about 1 inch, 1.5 inches. And I'm going to give you a couple of points for some of these, for maybe 3 of these petals, as for how close they are to the edge of the canvas. So for my top one is gonna be right about in through here. So this is almost halfway from the top of my canvas to the middle of my canvas. So halfway is about here. I'm just a little bit above that. That's where that first marker is gonna go. Then the next marker, I'm gonna come back to the center of my canvas, and I'm gonna come to the left until I'm about 2.5 inches away from the edge of my canvas. And then I'm going to go up maybe about 1/2 inch. That'll be my next marker. So I'm giving you kind of like the widest part of these petals. And then on this side, I'm going to go over to the, I'm going to go to the center of my flower, and I'm going to go to the right until I'm about 2 1/4, 2.5 inches away from the edge, and go up almost about 1 inch and give myself a marker. So those are 3 of the petals at their widest spot. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to make all the petals except for the one that goes in front of the cup, because I'll do that one last. So that'll be the hardest one. So I go back to the center of my canvas. These are going to be almost like upside down teardrops well, or like a teardrop shape. I guess this one's upside down because it's the top one. That's pretty silly. I'm going to do these ones that I've already marked so you can see where those are going. So back to the center of my flower, I'm going to come over like this to this area. I'm going to come back to the center, bring myself out like this. And of course, yours don't have to be exactly the same shape as mine. This is, again, just mimicking what's in the photo. I'm going to take from here, I'm going to go up and meet my mark in through here, bring it back down, and it looks like it goes up just a little bit before it goes back down. So I have another one coming in here and then one on the top, or one on the top of the cup. So for this one, it's not any higher than that and it's not any wider than this one. So some kind of teardrop that keeps those parameters like this. I can come in here, so like that. And then the one that's kind of flopping towards us in front of the cup, the tip of this one ends up overlapping this line a little bit, so it ends up right about here. So I'm going to take it from the back to the center of my flower and bring it down in through here. I'm going to meet here, and then this one actually comes and kind of curves like this, and it just kind of softly curves like that. So I don't get confused when I paint. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my one of my round paint brushes, put a little bit of water on it, and I'm going to erase these lines that are underneath this petal in through here. So that way when I go to paint, I'm not confused about what area I should paint. And then I'm going to be using this number 8 round brush for the next step, so you can make any little adjustments you want and get ready for the next step. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the base coat for our objects. I'm going to be using my number 8 round brush to paint, but I'm going to use my number 3 round brush to demonstrate how to premix 3 custom colors. The colors I'm using in this step are black, white, yellow, and brown, and I'm going to premix light yellow, gray, and light brown. So I have done that on my palette already, so you can see where I'm headed as I demonstrate how to make them. So this is my light yellow, which is just slightly off from white. So I'm going to be using mostly white with just a teeny touch of yellow. So I'm going to be using this as the base coat for my petals, so they can look like they have a bunch of sunshine on them. And so I also have more room to go with some white highlights later. So this is where I'm headed with that. The next color I'm going to go for is gray, which is right here. How I achieve that is white with a little bit of black in it. So white with a little bit of black is going to give me kind of a mid-tone gray. No special mixture for that. That's just going to help with those cool shiny colors on the cup. And then this is my light brown right here. So how I achieve this is brown with a little bit of yellow and a touch of white. And this is going to give me a lighter version of my burnt umber, but with a little bit more of a yellowish hue to it. So more of a golden-y kind of hue. So those are the colors I'm going to be using. Once you've got those, we're ready to start painting. So I'm going to go for my gray areas first. So I'm picking up my gray color with my number 8 round. My gray areas are going to be this area in through here. So when I'm doing this, I'm also knowing that I've got another layer that I'm going to be putting on them. I'm not going to be, I don't need this to be super perfect at this juncture, but I can definitely, for my own purposes, I can certainly bring this color right to the edge of my chalk mark if I want to, and then just bring this right in through here, and then just go right to the edge over here. So this is, for this painting purpose, this image that I'm going for using as my inspiration definitely has some nice clean lines around it, but if you wanted to make yours a little bit more abstracty or impressionistic, you certainly could. So I brought this line up a little bit higher. I want this one to be a little bit higher than that one, so I'm going to just bump that up just a little bit so it looks like it's a little bit higher. And then just bring this along my chalk mark. I'm going to leave the little hole for the straw. I'm going to leave that open. I'm also adding a little bit of water to my paint so it spreads a little bit easier. So as I'm getting into these smaller spots, like right here, I did add a little bit of moisture to my brush, which allows my paint to spread easier. So it allows me to get these cleaner lines. You could also certainly use a smaller brush if you wanted to, that with shorter bristles that would create cleaner edges on your lines. I like using a variety of different brushes, but today I'm opting to use this one because I knew I was going to be getting into some small little areas in the corners of these sections, so I figured that this would be the right tool for me to use. So once I've got that area, I think that looks pretty good. My other gray area is going to be right in through here. So I'm going to be using my gray with brown on my brush. So I'm going to use gray and brown, so it looks a little bit different than this one. So I just picked up gray and brown, and it's my second section up right in through here. So because I'm using the brown with it, it's going to turn it a little bit different of a color. Can even pick up a little bit more brown if I wanted to, just to get it even. This is the white part of the cup. So just so you understand what section of the cup we are painting right now, the white section, and it's in the shadows of wherever this cup is being held. I'm thinking it's in somebody's car. Like they got this cup of coffee at a nice coffee shop who was cute and kind and put a flower in it. So that's where my investigatory brain is taking me right now, that this was a kind gesture from an employee at a coffee shop. And if that was the case, that's a very cute, kind gesture. So that looks nice. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to color the cardboard cup part, or the cardboard part. So I'm actually going to wash the gray off of my brush, and I'm going to pick up some of that light brown color that we created. So the light brown color in through here, and then as I get over towards the sides, I'm going to use a little bit of my burnt umber, but I'm going to start with light gray in through here, and you can bring it right up to the other section. Even if the other section is still a little wet right now, don't worry about that. And the cardboard part would theoretically be outside of the white part. So you could certainly add just a little extra, push it out just a little bit further right out, in that little corner in through there if you wanted to. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and pick up some more brown on my dirty brush to get this left side. And if you don't get a perfect gradient yet, don't worry. Again, we're going to have one more step on these pieces of the cup that will help to add some more fun detail to it. So that looks pretty cool. I don't need to do a base coat on this, or this, because the base coat is black. So we're going to do the details of those later. I'm going to wash my brush now. And we're going to hit the details like in one step on them, so that's going to be super fun. So I'm washing my brush. I'm going to do my base coat for my flower with my light yellow color. So I've got my light yellow, and there's not going to be anything fancy here other than just kind of knowing where your edges of your flower are. So in this, where they almost touch or overlap, I would leave a little bit of my guideline visible, so I have that information later. If you wanted to, you could certainly kind of ripple those little edges a little bit so it's not super round, but in this photo they're pretty round. The edges are a little rippled, but not a lot. So again, just kind of going towards my edges, and I'm not being shy with the quantity of paint either, because I want to have a pretty good coverage. I am using a directional brush stroke, which means I'm purposely pulling my brush in the direction that I feel the veins of the flower would go. This is going to help me add a little bit of extra detail because I'm using such a light color on this first round. It's going to show some of that dark color underneath it, which you can see evidence right there of that. So if I start this directional brush stroke like this, I'll immediately already have a little bit of detail put into that petal without doing a whole heck of a lot of work. So just I'm purposely kind of moving my brush back and forth in that direction of what I would think the veins would be going. So again, I'm going to do that to each one of them. And again, feel free to use a good quantity of paint so you can get pretty good coverage, but it doesn't have to be full saturation here. It's still okay if you see some of the darkness from the black base underneath. That will again help with adding details to these petals. And then I'm just going right to the edge, allowing myself to get pretty clean edges on there. And I can only get those pretty clean edges with a good amount of paint on my brush. I could make it a little bit more fluid, which would do, that would also give me clean edges. However, I want a pretty solid, not 100% solid, but I do want pretty good coverage on this. So if I put liquid medium or water into my paint right now, it will make it more transparent, and I will lose some of the opacity of my paint. So I don't really want to do that for these guys because they need to take on some brightness. So I'm not thinning it out that way. So my alternative to get clean edges is just use a lot of paint on my brush. I use a thin-bodied student grade paint, so it tends to have a good amount of fluidity to it. So if you are using a heavy-bodied paint, you may need to add a little bit of liquid medium to get it to give you these clean edges. But for me, the thin bodied student grade paint works out great, so I can just get pretty clean edges. And then we are going to be using the I think I want to use the this same brush for the next step, my number 8 round, so you can just get ready. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the cup. I'm going to be using both my number 8 and my number 3 round brushes. The colors I'm using are black, white, blue, light brown, brown, and that might be it. If I go into any other colors, I'll let you know. So this is going to be, I'm going to add another tone onto this gray top so it looks shiny. I need to get rid of my chalk marks in the back, but it's pretty dark in the photo. So I'm going to be using a dark gray back there, which I'll just make with black and a touch of white. The cup actually comes out a little bit, so we're going to create just a tiny bit of an illusion. We're going to put a little highlight here. We're going to put highlights inside. So it's going to be really fun to create a ton of realistic detail with just a few marks. But before we get into that, I'm going to put another layer on these larger sections, and then we'll get into those fun little small details. So I'm going to use my number 8 round. I'm going to come back down to this section. I think I said I was using my light brown color. So I'm going to start with my light brown and just kind of put another little layer in this center area. And then I'm going to pick up some of my brown, and I'm going to bring it out to the left and right. So right now, I'm no longer using a directional brush stroke going across it. I'm going more in like a little circular brush stroke, so that way I'm almost just blending it out into these edges. I just picked up more brown, and I also need to make sure that my chalk marks are gone or covered. So I'm coming out on this left-hand side, and I'm going to just bring it out just a little bit more so it can look like it's wrapping around the cup itself. I'm going to put a little tiny shadow in between it and the white part of the cup too in a minute, but I'm just going to get this on here. And my brown will go darker as it dries, and I know that, so that's why I'm not really concerned that there's not much difference between the outside and the inside, but there's not much difference in the photo either. So now that I've got that, I'm going to wash my brush. I'm going on into this section here. I want the center to be a little bit lighter, but I still want it to look like it's in the shadow. So I'm going to actually use my, my gray, a touch of white, and a touch of blue. I'm pretty sure I said blue. So gray, white, and blue. And I can take this and just, again, use it in this circular kind of way. Now I just wipe my brush off and I'm going back into my gray plus maybe brown. So initially I started with gray and then I used the brown to give it a different color variety from what was up top. So now I still want it to have a little bit different look, so that's why I just picked up a little bit of brown as I'm going to the left and the right. So something like this. And again, I will get it to blend in a second. And then I can use that circular type of brush stroke to just get these to really blend in nicely together. And if you felt that the blue, you wanted that to be more of like a papery color, you could certainly add a little bit of that light yellow to it. So if I didn't say I was using light yellow, so if I picked up a tiny bit of light yellow, I could just kind of merge that in a little bit. Again, I don't want it to go super duper light, but you could certainly just play with those little tones and have fun with that. So that's the larger areas. I do need to put a little bit of a highlight in the center of these guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a dark gray, which I have on my palette here. So it's black plus just a tiny bit of white. So I need it to be lighter than black, but not much. So just an itty bitty dot of white in it. And I've got it next to my black so you can see it's maybe 1 or 2 shades lighter, but not much. So once I've got that, I can use that in the center part of these 2 areas. So this is going to just give me a little bit of variation from the front to the sides, but not so much that the viewer's even going to totally notice, but enough to move that painting forward and have that little gradation. So I can also use that light or that dark gray maybe over on this side of this guy right in through here, because we're gonna need to see the difference between the side of the cup and that little inset piece. So I'm just gonna use this dark gray to get rid of my chalk mark in through here, so that just gives me an edge to the cup. I can pick up some black to just fade it into this section of the cup. There we go. So it doesn't look just like a line. There we go. So I'm gonna wash my brush and I'm gonna put a little bit of another color on this upper portion of the cup. So the front part is gonna be, the front part of this section is gonna have a little bit more light on it, and then same thing with these little edges. So I'm going to use my gray, and I think I'm gonna go with that gray, blue, and white combo. Gray, blue, and white, and this is going to give me a nice, vibrant edge in through here. And I need to get rid of my chalk mark, so I'm definitely mindful about that. And if I can't get it all with paint, I can certainly erase it with a little bit of water after I'm done painting. So my bigger concern is getting a clean line with paint. There we go. So that's a nice clean line, and then I can just take, maybe even with a little water on my brush, and just blend this up into that other section, or into the rest of the section. And I mean, you could certainly add more lightness to it if you want, more gray, blue, and white, if I wanted a little more variation. something like that. And then this back section looks like it fades into the darkness. So right at the top here, I'm actually going to pick up a little bit of black and kind of blur this line. So I'm just going back and forth and blurring this top line in through here. So with a little bit of water on my brush, I can just kind of blur that out like that. And this little section here, something like that. That looks pretty good. And then I'm going to switch to my small brush from here out. So my small brush, I'm going to take my dark gray and get rid of this line back here. So I'm going just right over my chalk mark with dark gray. So you're going to hardly see it, but it's here. Trust me. So a little bit of dark gray, just going right over my chalk mark. And I just hit my petal of my flower, which I'm totally okay with. No big whoop. And this is just a little bit of dark gray, bringing it right into this section over here. Just an itty bitty detail, but it's in the photo. I want to be able to see the edge of the cup, so that's all I need to do for that. I also wanted to add a little bit more lightness on this front area, so I'm going to wash my brush. I'm actually going to pick up a little bit of black first to just clean up this line. So I just picked up a little bit of black with water on my brush. So black and water is going to give me a nice fluid line that I can just clean up my edge here from the dark side, from the black side. There we go. I'm going to wash my brush. I'm going to put that blue, gray, and white mixture on. So again, just a little bit of blue, gray, and white. And I'm going to lighten up these edges in through here. So it looks like this cup has got some shine on it. And you know, if this brush is too big for you, you could always switch to a smaller brush, or conversely, if this brush is too little, just go to a bigger brush, wherever your comfort zone is as far as making these little details. That's going to be up to you, right? I'm going to lighten up this edge over here. I'm going to use a little bit of my gray plus white and water to get these edges. So this is just helping me with the fluidity. So now I am using a little bit of water in my mixture, and it can be shiny, it can be not shiny. If you want to look a little shinier, I can pick up a little bit more blue and just kind of use little varying tones of gray all the way around here, and that's what's going to make it look like it's kind of shining and reflecting whatever is in the atmosphere. I'm going to put there's going to be a little strategic shadow line in a minute, but I just want to make sure I've got all of these edges where I want them and cleaned up. So again, this is any combination of gray, blue, white. Again, you can reflect whatever colors in this that you want, because it is a shiny type of object. So if you want there to be more reflections of different stuff, like maybe you put a red flower, and then if you put a red flower, there could be red reflections in this shiny part of the cup. So just those little nuances will definitely help to make it more realistic looking. So that looks pretty cool. I'm going to wash my brush. I'm going to put some black paint on my brush, black with a little bit of water, because I need a couple of strategic shadows. So I've got to put a shadow in between here and that center area. So I'm going to take it, and my line is going to be a little bit wider up at the top like this, and then as I pull it down this side, I'm going to narrow it, and it's going to disappear at the bottom of this shape. So skinny, 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 and then disappear out there. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So black plus water, it's going to be wider up at the top and then disappear at the bottom. So I push it harder up at the top like this, and then as I come around this corner, I'm easing up on my pressure which is making my line skinnier, 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 and disappears in through there. And then if I felt that I need to, I still see some of my chalk up here, so I'm going to just get rid of that with some black, because this is all black up here anyways. And then if I wanted a little lighter line right around that rim, I could pick up maybe just a touch of the gray with a little bit of white and just give myself a little bright edge right in through here. Again, just to accentuate that, what that shadow means and where it's coming from. And then I need to do the same little little cleanup work in here. So I wash my brush, put a little bit of black because I see some of my chalk mark. So I'm getting rid of that, cleaning up my edge, go inside this little straw hole, clean up anything that I need to in there, and then I'm going to come out into these sides. So I'm going to wash my brush, I'm going to pick up some of my gray, and where I have this dark gray, I am going to put a little kind of light area. That's all I got. I don't know what else to call it. So I'm going to take from here, I'm going to give like a little shape that's emerging from the back of the cup. It's like, I don't know how to describe what this shape is. Looks like that. That's all I got. I don't know how to explain it. It's like a little platform part inside the lip of the cup, inside the lip of the lid. So something like this, again, kind of taking it out in through here, and this kind of just disappears right in through here. And again, if you don't understand what the shape actually is, just look at it in the photo, and whatever that shape represents, it doesn't matter if you know what that is, just copy the shape and you'll get the results that you want. On this top edge here, I'm going for a little bit of gray to give myself an edge. So I'm just going around along my chalk mark right now with my gray and a little bit of water. Oops, I can fix that in a minute. So just along my chalk mark. The center is going to, area is going to be a little bit darker, so I'm actually going to transition right now into my dark gray with my light gray. So there's dark gray and light gray on my brush right now. And I will get them to blend out just a little bit. As I'm coming over to this left side, I'm going to start picking back up the lighter version of gray. Just go right on my chalk mark. Something like that. And then I'm going to come, it looks like the cup actually kind of flares out. I'm wiping my brush off, picking up a little bit of black paint. I'm just going to, it looks like the lid kind of flares out a little bit in through here, so I'm going to just extend this section just a little bit like this. Get rid of that little mark and put a little tiny dot of light gray, or the lighter gray, right on that corner, and do the same thing over on the other side. So I'm just going to kind of take this lid part and flare it out just a little bit. And in order for the viewer to see that, oops, I need to put a little, something on there. So I'm just going to pick up a tiny bit of light gray, just give a little tiny edge in through there. And then, hold on, that looks good. So in this little guy in through here, I'm going to pick up some dark gray. Oh, maybe dark gray and black. So this little edge right here is going to have a shadow on it. So just making that dark. And then what else? We need a little shadow in between here and here. So again, I'm just mark making. I'm seeing what I see in the picture, and I'm just following it. So this goes in through here. This is dark back here. So I need to darken this little piece. It doesn't have to go black, but enough to just get that little shadow. And there's a little shadow on this guy too. So as I'm doing this, I'm just kind of looking around the photo and saying, where's the dark happening, where's the light happening, and that's going to give me the shape of the cup. I'm going to pick up a little bit of my dark gray and blue, because I feel like I could have maybe just a touch of light gray too. I feel like there should be a little bit of lightness on the side of the cup right here. So I'm just adding a little tiny bit of a highlight right in through here. Then I'm going to pick up white, and I have a little white highlight in through here. I have a little white highlight on top of here, like that. I have a little white highlight on top of here, on top of my light, or on top of that gray, to just add that extra sheen to it, like that. And then I have, I'm going to put a little blue shine, gray plus blue, right across this center of this front. So something like that just gives it that extra little shiny piece. And then I need to put a little tiny shadow or edge, something in through here. So I'm going to just pick up black and see what the black does for me, and if I need to do anything else, I will. So the lid goes over the cup, so there'd probably be a little shadow right here, and this cleans up my line, my chalk line. So something like this. And of course you can do fiddle and do more adjustments to it if you feel that this one line didn't finish it out for you, but I'm just kind of riding along my chalk mark or below it. Because there we go. And then there's a little shadow inside where the cup meets the brown hand warmer or hand protector. So I'm going to put a little shadow in that corner, a little shadow in this corner, and then just ride between these two with black. So something like this. So again, I'm using moisture. I'm using a little bit of water on my brush. So this is how I can get these long continual lines. I do have a super shaky hand, so my aid is my easel. I use my easel to brace myself as I'm making these long continual lines. You can, there's, you know, different methods and different methodologies to doing it. That's a little bit too harsh for me, so I'm going to actually just put a little bit of water on my brush to kind of soften that line as it's meeting the cup. So what I just did there is I put a little bit of water on my brush, and I'm using kind of the belly of the bristles to soften this up. There we go. This is where you guys will not be caring for your brushes as well as you should be. I teach you bad habits. I don't mean to all the time, but sometimes I can't help it. I'm actually going to pick up a little bit of gray plus my black just to, so I don't totally ruin the brush. But if I was using a little maybe blender brush or something, that would work out a little bit better. There we go. But a long round brush is not the brush to be blending this on, but it was too clean of a line for me to enjoy, so I had to do something about it. So that looks pretty good. And then I just need a tiny bit of my dark gray to finish out this little, get rid of this little line. And of course you can, you know, play with yours as much as you want and see if there's anything additional that you want to do to yours, but I'm thinking that I'm digging the way that mine is looking, so I'm going to call it on this step. We're going to be using the number 8 round brush for the next step, so you can just get ready. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to work on the petals. I'm using my number 8 round brush. The colors I'm going to be using are white, light yellow, gray, yellow, I already said, no, I said light yellow, and yellow, deep yellow, red, brown, and white. And what I'm going to do is I am going to, this particular flower is dark in the middle with like a little rusty color and yellow. So I'm going to pre-mix myself a rust color, which I have done on my palette here. This is it right here. How I got to this is red, yellow, brown, and a touch of white. Not much white, just a little tiny touch. And this will give me this nice rusty tone that I can use right in the center of the flowers. And I'm going to use my gray in order to, I might use a little blue too, but I'm not quite sure about that yet. My gray is going to be used as shadows within the petals. So like on this shadow, or on this petal, it comes out of the center of the flower and then it kind of curls. So there's a little dark area in through here. This one has a dark area here for it curls out that way, and then it curls under here, so there's a little shadow. So I'm going to use the gray to create these shadowy areas, and I'm going to use the rust color and yellow in the center, and then we're going to use white to add some nice highlights and maybe some of that light yellow as well. So I'm going to first start with my gray color because I think I might need this to set up for a minute before I finish it out. So I'm going to just look at the photo and see where I have these gray marks. So I have one in this area in through here, and I'm not going to give it super clean edges to it. I'm going to just let it kind of fade out into the flower itself, so that way when I finish the color on the particular petal, it will I'll be able to transition those edges easier. So this one has a big one like in through here, and then it kind of comes down like this. It's up in through here. And so this one must be shadowing itself, it looks like, and then the shadow area comes down into like the center of the flower in through here, and then it kind of comes up here. This one's a fun one. So a lot of shadow on this one, and back in through here. So again, just softening those edges as I go so I don't have super clean lines that I have to contend with in a minute. And then again, just a little bit of that gray. On this one, it looks like there's a nice little dip up in through here, and then it kind of comes down like that. And then just kind of blending it up into this little corner and softening that edge. There we go. And then I have on this one's got a big huge one kind of over here, and it swoops down like this and back up, and it goes all the way down into the center of the flower like this. And then I'm going to just soften those edges. So again, the placement doesn't have to be exact, but again, if you want to go for that, you know, realistic type of appearance to it, just follow what nature has already provided for you. Follow, you know, this photo, it doesn't lie. I mean, it is what it is. So even this is not a shadow display that I would have come up with in my own head for, you know, for each one of these little petals to be bending like this. So this to me looks more natural than, you know, something that somebody would think of on their own. So I think for me, that's where realism really takes a shining spot for me, because I can't come up with these things. You know, as I'm creating my own design compositions, it's like, you know, I would be putting I would be using my fundamental rules to create where all these shadows are, and then I wouldn't think about, oh well, you know, this one could be curved a much different way, and you know, so I love using using photos to help inspire me to be more chaotic and stuff as I create my compositions, because it teaches me that you know, nature can be chaotic, and so too can your paintings. So that looks pretty nice. I'm going to wash my brush and I'm going to work on those centers. So washing my brush, I'm going to put a little bit of that rusty color on, and I'm going to go right into this center in through here. I wiped my brush off because I do not need a lot of this color on here, and I'm just going to kind of blend it right up and out of these centers, something like this. And then this one looks like it comes up a little bit higher. So I'm just kind of looking to see how far up I see it. This one looks like we're going to see the outside of the little edge of the petal, so this color just kind of comes that way. And then this one I hardly see any I just see the yellow. So I'm going to wash my brush and I'm going to pick up some of my deep yellow and I'm going to put that where I see it now. So I see a little bit of this in here. I see hardly any in here and a little bit in here and then quite a bit right in through here. So now that I've got that on there, now I can start going for another layer on these petals. So I'm going to hit where I see the super white areas now. I'm going to wash my brush. I'm picking up white paint. I see a white area in through here. This is the edge of this petal like this, and it's super light right in through here. So now I'm conversely going for the highlights, which is going to pop out these parts of the flowers that are bumping out, or they're catching the light because they've curled in the correct direction, or they're just facing the light in the right way. This one is got a huge light area in through here. So this is just white right now, and you can, I don't know how much you can detect on camera, but I can see the difference between it and the light yellow that I applied earlier. So that was the whole goal here. I've got some white in through here, and then this kind of is pretty darn light right in through here, and then coming down in through here. And I'm going to add that light yellow in a minute as well, but right now just going for those really bright spots because I can't get any lighter than white. So right now I just want to make sure I understand where that brightness is going to go, and then I can make anything else darker if I need to in order for that white to pop a little bit more. So that looks pretty good in through there. That's done that. So now I think I'm going to go for white and or my light yellow, I think is where I'm headed next. So my light yellow, I'm going to do another layer in through here. And if I felt that I wanted to, which I do want to, blend this in with that gray, what I can do is I can just wipe my brush off a little bit, pick up a little bit of that gray, and now I can get these two to just kind of marry one another a little bit more gently than just a light spot and then a dark spot. So this helps those two blend just a little bit better. So that's, I think, the way that I'm going to approach the rest of them. I think that and this one like has a little bit of additional darkness in through here, so you can use that gray plus your light yellow in any medium tone areas. So like this one has some lightness on the tip, but then it's kind of between light yellow and gray in the middle, so I can pick up a tiny bit of the gray with my light yellow and kind of get that center area to have another tone to it. So again, just finding that balance between the bright spots and the dark spots in order to have that petal do what it says it's doing. That doesn't make sense. It does make sense in my little head. So something like that. So I need to leave some of those areas in their truest, brightest form. Like I just picked up some light yellow to get this nice and bright up in through here. Pick up the light yellow plus a little bit of the gray. That was too much. To just blend them in a little bit, and then if there's any mid-tone areas that I feel could be worked on a little bit, I could certainly do that as well. And then that looks nice. Maybe I need a little bit more down on this edge in through here. There we go. And then she's looking pretty. She's looking like a pretty flower. I just picked up some light yellow, so I'm going in pretty aggressively with the light yellow because I know that it's a nice, pretty, lively color that's gonna show that these petals are really being hit by the sunshine. This has a little gradient in through here, so I can pick up a tiny bit of my gray to get that little gradient to happen, and then in through here it looks like there's just a little bit of the gray coming in through here as well. Something like that. Oops, that flower just got bigger. This one's got a little fun little edge that I missed right there. And then again, just light yellow is getting my layer on here, so I'm getting it full enough so I'm not seeing the background underneath it, but yet I'm keeping it with some of those gray tones in it, so I can have those nice shadows. I might even add just a touch of blue into some of these shadows. I feel like I'm seeing it in the photo, so I might do that as well. I'm picking up some more white right now though, so I feel like this edge could get a little whiter. So now I'm just kind of filling with these last little tones in through here. This, I think this needs to go just a little bit darker right here, all the way to the edge. There we go. And then that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna just pull a little bit of white right down into here so we can see these edges like this. So this is the these little edges of the flower kind of almost cup right in the center here, which I love. These flowers are so pretty. They're just these little cute flowers. I need another little layer of my rust too. Just putting that in that center so I can get a nice little deepness in through there. And then of course you can fiddle with this as much as you want. If you feel that you want more depth to it, you can certainly go darker on some of the colors. If you want more brightness to it, that would conversely be the same thing. You can add more dark, would make it look lighter. Those areas that are light. I'm going to pick up just a teeny tiny bit of my ultramarine blue just to put just a smidge in some of these. Just give another little tone. There we go. That sometimes it's not much, but it helps me. And then I'm going to be using for the next step my small brush, so my number 3 round brush. So once you've got this done, make any little adjustments that you think would benefit you. You can put this brush away, take out your small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the stem and the straw. I'm going to be using my number 3 round brush to paint. The colors I'm going to use are gray, brown, light brown, black, and maybe a little bit of white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first draw a very faint line for the outside of my straw, so that way that'll avoid me from making my stem the wrong size. So I'm going to use gray plus some water, and I'm really going to super water it down, so that way it'll just be a really thin transparent line. So I definitely need it to land in my cup, right? So I'm going to just kind of make some lines here and then just give myself a real faint line to indicate where I want the edges of the straw to go. So that works good for me. Then I'm going to pick up some of my light brown to create a stem. So the stem in the photo comes to right about here. So somewhere in through here is where I'm going to put the stem. That was light brown. It looks lighter up at the top and the bottom, so I'm going to just use my light brown up at the top, somewhere in through here. Looks like my straw is a little bit different place, but that's okay. So here's the top part of my stem, and then I'm going to just pick up some brown and do like a little curved line. I might use a little bit of black on this too. A little curved line. Looks like it's almost touching the outside of that straw. So I'm using very thin paint too, because I want this to dry pretty quick, because I'm going to be doing like a little wash over it to make my straw look like it's seeing through it. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of black to get a little bit darker tone in the middle of this stem, just so we can see it a little bit better. It has a little bit more contrast to it. Picking up a little bit of black and brown, because I think I made mine a little too light. There we go. That looks good to me. And then maybe just a little brown at the bottom. There we go. I don't need to get more fancy than that, even though I want to. I'm gonna pick up a little bit of white and brown there's a little light area up here in the photo on the stem, so that's what I'm doing. Just put the light where you see it and put the dark where you see it. There we go, that looks good. So now what I'm gonna do for my straw is I need to make it appear transparent. So I'm gonna use that gray plus water to start it. And again, like almost drippy water. So it's very transparent. And then I'm going to do it with this gray. I'm looking to see if I want to add another color to it, but I think I'm going to start it this way. And if I want to add more colors, I will. So you want to make sure that your stem is pretty dry. Mine's pretty dry. Doesn't take long to get it to dry. There we go. And then I'm going to just kind of put this wash over it, more dominant on the edges, on the left and the right edges. So I'm just going to kind of go down each side. So a wash means that it's just going to be transparent. So as I do this, I can add a little bit more water to my brush and just kind of pull it in just a little bit more. And just keep adding water to make it as transparent as you want it. So something like that. I'm going to want it to go a little bit lighter in some areas. So I'm going to now pick up a tiny bit of white and water. So white, and you could use a little bit of that gray too, but just a little bit lighter because we need to be able to see it. So I just start a little bit darker so I don't get myself into trouble. And then I just kind of keep going lighter and lighter as I see fit. I still want to be able to see my stem in there, so I gotta be careful not to go too light. And I also know that when using water as your medium, if you also are using white to thin it out, or white is your color and water is your medium, it will look whiter or lighter when it's wet, and it will dry more transparent. So I'm thinking that actually looks pretty good. I think I'm actually going to go for a little bit of my light yellow, which I didn't know I was going to use. So light yellow, I think I can use a little bit of that over here on the edge just to kind of pop out that edge just a little bit more, and a little bit more water on my brush. And if something fails and you went too light or too dark, or you can always revert to your other colors. So if I want to back this off, I can pick up a little bit of dark gray or a little bit of black to just kind of soften it a little bit. I just want to kind of make that a little bit more transparent. I can add a little bit of water onto my brush too. That will help to reopen the paint and make it a little bit more transparent. So you can do a couple of little tricks like that that will help to do those kind of things. I'm picking up just a little bit more of my light yellow and my gray just to kind of pop this edge just a little bit more. And then of course you can just fiddle with it as much as you want, and then when you get it into a spot that you are comfortable with, we're going to be using this same small brush for the next step. So you can just wash it and dry it and get ready for the next step. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. So I typically sign mine in the lower left or the lower right. I'm going to be using my number 3 round. I think I'm going lower left on this one, and I think I'm going to try with black because it's dark gray down here, so I think I can see my black on top of it. I like to sign mine with my initials, but you of course can sign yours however you want. You can make up a fun symbol, you can sign it on the back, you can hide it in your painting, You can do whatever you want to identify this as your painting. That's a decision you make all on your own. And that is going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself a super cool still life, and I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.